I never thought that the most beautiful day of my best friend's life would become the day I had to destroy it. My name is Olivia Grant, and what I'm about to tell you will shock you to your core. The man Amelia was about to marry wasn't just lying about his love. He was hiding a secret so dark, so twisted, that it would have ruined her life forever. But the real betrayal, it came from someone she trusted most in the world. The morning sun streamed through the stained glass windows of St. Mary's Cathedral. Everything looked perfect. The white roses were arranged just right. The guests were settling into their seats. And Amelia, my best friend since college, looked like a princess in her grandmother's wedding dress. "Olivia, can you believe this day is finally here?" Amelia whispered to me as I fixed her veil. Her eyes sparkled with pure joy. "Alexander is everything I've ever dreamed of." I smiled and hugged her tight. "You deserve all the happiness in the world, Amy." But something felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it. Alexander Hale had swept into Amelia's life 6 months ago like a fairy tale prince. He was handsome, charming, and seemed to adore her. He showered her with expensive gifts and romantic gestures. When he proposed after just 4 months, I thought, it was too fast. But seeing Amelia's happiness, I kept my doubts to myself. Now, as I watched her glow with excitement, that nagging feeling in my stomach grew stronger. "Where is Alexander?" Amelia asked, looking around. "He should be getting ready with the groomsmen by now." I checked my watch. The ceremony was supposed to start in 30 minutes. "Don't worry, I'll find him." As I walked through the church halls, I heard Catherine Hale, Amelia's mother, talking in hushed tones with someone around the corner. "Everything must go exactly as planned," Catherine whispered urgently. "Amelia can never know the truth. Too much depends on this." My blood ran cold. What truth? What was Amelia's own mother hiding? Before I could process this fully, I heard commotion outside. Through the window, I saw Alexander pacing by his car, phone pressed to his ear. He looked agitated, nervous, not like a groom excited to marry the love of his life. I pushed through the heavy church doors and walked toward Alexander's car. The guests inside were getting restless. The organist had played the same song 3 times. I needed to get the groom inside before people started asking questions. As I got closer, I could hear Alexander's voice. He was speaking in a low, urgent tone. Something made me stop behind a large oak tree instead of announcing myself. "She can't know the truth," Alexander hissed into the phone. "I'm her half-brother. But once the vows are said, it won't matter. I'll have what I came for." The world tilted. My legs nearly gave out. Half-brother? What did he mean? But then came the voice on the other end of the phone. I could hear it clearly through the speaker. "Don't lose your nerve now, Alexander," came Catherine's voice, Amelia's mother. "We've planned this for too long. The inheritance will be split between you both once you're married. Then we can claim your father's entire estate." My hands flew to my mouth to stop myself from gasping out loud. "But what if she finds out we're related?" Alexander asked. "What if someone remembers that her father had an affair 28 years ago?" "No one knows except us," Catherine replied coldly. "Her father's dead. The woman he had the affair with is dead. You're the only evidence of that mistake, and after today you'll be family in a different way." The phone call continued, but I could barely hear over the sound of my heart pounding. "The insurance money, the property, the investments, it will all belong to both of you as husband and wife. Then we split it 3 ways, just like we agreed." I watched in horror as Alexander nodded. "And Amelia never has to know she's marrying her half-brother." Perfect. I stumbled backward, my mind racing. Amelia's father had died in a car accident when she was 15. She'd been devastated. I remembered how she'd cried for months, how her mother Catherine had been her rock during that dark time. But now I realized Catherine had been lying to her daughter for years. Not only had she hidden the fact that Amelia's father had another child, but she was now using that secret to steal from Amelia. Alexander wasn't just a con man. He was Amelia's half-brother, planning to marry her for money while keeping their blood relationship secret. I felt sick. How could a mother do this to her own daughter? My phone buzzed with a text from Amelia. "Where are you?" People are asking when we're starting. I looked at Alexander, who was still on the phone with Catherine, planning this twisted scheme. Then I looked at the church full of people waiting to witness what they thought was a beautiful love story. I had two choices: stay silent and let my best friend marry her half-brother, or speak up and destroy her on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. But as I thought about Amelia's bright smile, her pure joy, her trust in the people who were supposed to love her most, I knew what I had to do. I walked back into the church on shaking legs. The guests were getting impatient. Some were checking their phones. Others were whispering among themselves. Amelia stood at the back of the church in her beautiful dress, looking like an angel. When she saw me, her face lit up. "There you are. Is Alexander ready? Can we finally start?" I looked at my best friend, the woman I'd known for over 15 years. The woman who'd been my maid of honor when I married my husband. The woman who'd held my hand when my father died. The woman who deserved so much better than what was about to happen to her. "Amy," I said softly, "we need to talk. Right now." Her smile faded when she saw my expression. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I took her hands in mine. They were cold despite the warm day. "I need you to trust me. What I'm about to tell you will hurt. But I would rather hurt you now than let you be destroyed later." "Olivia, you're scaring me. What's going on?" The wedding coordinator approached us. "Ladies, the groom is ready. We need to start the processional now. Give us 5 minutes." I told her firmly. I led Amelia to a small room behind the altar. My heart was breaking as I looked at her confused face. "Amy, I overheard Alexander on the phone. What he said. It changes everything." "What are you talking about?" she asked, but I could see fear creeping into her eyes. "He's not who you think he is, and neither is your mother. Alexander is your half-brother." I said the words quickly, like ripping off a bandage. "Your father had an affair 28 years ago. Alexander is the result of that affair." Amelia stared at me in silence for a long moment. Then she laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "That's impossible. That's insane. Why would you say something like that? I heard him on the phone with your mother. They're planning this together, Amy. They want to marry you off to him so they can claim your father's inheritance. Your mother has been lying to you your entire life." "My mother would never ... quotes. Amelia started, but her voice trailed off. I watched as pieces started clicking together in her mind. The rushed engagement, Alexander's lack of family photos. The way Catherine had been so eager to plan the wedding. How Alexander always seemed to know personal details about Amelia's family that she'd never told him. "Show me," she whispered. "I need proof." I led her to the window where we could see Alexander.
He was still on the phone, pacing by his car. This time, we could both hear his voice clearly.
"Once the ceremony is over, we're home free," he was saying. "She never suspect her own husband is her half-brother. The inheritance will be ours." Amelia's face went white. She gripped my arm so tightly it hurt. That's really him saying that." I nodded. "I'm so sorry, Amy. I'm so sorry." She stood there in her wedding dress, processing the fact that the man she loved, the man she was about to promise her life to, was not only lying to her but was her own blood relative. "My mother," she whispered. "She's really part of this?" Before I could answer, Catherine's voice came from behind us. "Amelia, darling, what are you doing back here? The guests are waiting." Amelia turned to face her mother. Catherine looked beautiful in her navy blue dress, her silver hair perfectly styled. She looked like any proud mother of the bride. But now I could see the calculation in her eyes, the coldness that I'd mistaken for composure. "Mom," Amelia said slowly, "is Alexander my half-brother?" Catherine's face didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "What a strange question, dear. Why would you ask such a thing?" "Answer me," Amelia demanded, her voice stronger now. "Is the man I'm about to marry my father's son?" Catherine glanced at me with pure hatred. "I don't know what lies she's been filling your head with, but this is neither the time nor the place for such nonsense." "I heard him on the phone," I said. "I heard both of you planning this. You've been lying to Amelia for years. You little... Catherine started, but Amelia held up her hand. Tell me the truth, mother. Right now. Is Alexander my half-brother? The silence stretched between us. In the distance, I could hear the organ music starting again. The wedding coordinator was probably panicking. Finally, Catherine's mask slipped. Your father made a mistake 28 years ago. I've spent your entire life protecting you from that knowledge. Alexander was the result of that mistake. Amelia stumbled backward as if she'd been slapped. So it's true. But that doesn't matter now, Catherine continued quickly. What matters is your future, your security. The inheritance. You planned for me to marry my half-brother for money. Amelia's voice was barely above a whisper. I planned for you to be financially secure for the rest of your life, Catherine snapped. Your father left a fortune, but it's tied up in legal complications. Marrying Alexander solves everything. Even if it's illegal, even if it's disgusting. Catherine's face hardened. Don't be so dramatic, Amelia. Lots of people marry distant relatives. Half-siblings share DNA. Yes, but you're both adults. You're not having children. It's a business arrangement that happens to solve everyone's problems. I watched my best friend realize that her own mother saw her as nothing more than a pawn in a twisted money grab. I can't breathe, Amelia gasped, clutching her chest. I helped her sit down on a nearby chair. Amy, we need to stop this wedding, right now. But the guests, she whispered. Everyone is here. They'll all know something terrible
Happened. Let them know, I said firmly.
You cannot marry that man. And you cannot let your mother and Alexander get away with this. Catherine stepped forward. If you stop this wedding, you'll have nothing, Amelia. No husband, no inheritance, no future. Is that really what you want? I want the truth, Amelia said, standing up straighter. I want to not be treated like a fool by the people who are supposed to love me. Through the window we could see Alexander walking toward the church. He'd finished his phone call and was ready to play the part of the loving groom.
He's coming, I said. Amy, you need to decide right now.
Do we stop this or do you go through with it? Amelia looked at her mother, then at me, then down at her wedding dress. If I stop it now, everyone will know something went wrong. They'll ask questions. Let them ask, I urged her. The truth is better than living a lie. But what will? I say, how do I explain this without destroying my father's memory? Without letting everyone know what kind of woman my mother really is? Catherine watched this exchange with growing panic. Amelia, be reasonable. Think about your future. I am thinking about my future, Amelia said, her voice growing stronger. My future where I don't wake up every day married to my half-brother. My future where I'm not part of some sick con game. She turned to me. Olivia, will you help me stop this? Of course, I said immediately. Whatever you need. Amelia nodded once, decisively. Then let's go stop my wedding. We walked out of the small room together. Alexander was just entering the church, straightening his tie and putting on his charming smile. When he saw us, he walked over. There you are, beautiful, he said to Amelia, reaching for her hands. Ready to become Mrs. Alexander Halley? Amelia pulled her hands away. Actually, we need to talk. All of us, right now. Alexander's smile faltered. What's going on? The ceremony should have started 10 minutes ago. The ceremony isn't happening. Amelia said clearly. I watched Alexander's face change as he realized something had gone very wrong with his plan. What do you mean? He asked, but his eyes were darting between Amelia, Catherine, and me. I mean, Amelia said in a voice loud enough for nearby guests to hear, that I've just learned some very interesting information about who you really are. The guests in the back rows started turning around to listen. Word was spreading quickly that something was happening. Amy, maybe we should discuss this privately, Alexander said, trying to take control of the situation. No, Amelia said firmly. I think everyone should hear this, especially since so many people took time out of their lives to be here today. More guests were turning around now. The organist had stopped playing. A hush was falling over the entire church. Catherine grabbed Amelia's arm. Don't do this, you're making a mistake. Amelia shook her off. The mistake was trusting you, both of you. She turned to face the congregation. Her voice carried clearly through the silent church. I want to thank everyone for being here today. Unfortunately, there will be no wedding. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. I've just learned that the man I was about to marry has been lying to me about who he is. And so has my own mother. Alexander stepped forward. Amelia, you're upset. Let's discuss this rationally. Rationally? Amelia's voice rose. There's nothing rational about planning to marry your half-sister for her inheritance money. The church erupted. Guests started talking at once, their voices rising in shock and confusion. I heard people saying half-sister and inheritance. And what's happening? Alexander's face went red. You don't understand the situation. I understand perfectly, Amelia shot back. You and my mother have been planning this for months. You're my father's son from an affair he had 28 years ago. You've been lying to me from the moment we met. That's not how it happened, Alexander said desperately. Then how did it happen? Amelia demanded. Did you or did you not seek me out specifically because I'm your half-sister? Did you or did you not plan this entire relationship to get access to my father's money? Alexander looked around at the hundreds of faces staring at him. Some of Amelia's relatives were standing up in their pews, trying to get closer to hear better. Your mother contacted me, he said finally. She told me about the inheritance situation. She said if we got married, we could solve the legal problems and both benefit financially. And you thought that was a good plan? I couldn't help asking. He turned to me with anger. This is all your fault. You should have minded your own business. My business is protecting my best friend from people who want to hurt her. Catherine stepped forward, trying one last time to control the situation. Everyone is overreacting. This is a family matter that should be handled privately, but Amelia wasn't having it. No, Mother. You lost the right to handle anything privately. When you decided to trick me into marrying my half-brother, an older woman in the third row stood up. Catherine, is this true? Did you really plan this? I recognized her as Catherine's sister, Amelia's aunt. More family members were standing now, all looking at Catherine with expressions of shock and disgust. I did what I thought was best for my daughter's future, Catherine said defensively. By having her commit incest? Another relative called out. The word hung in the air like a poison cloud. That's what this was, really. Catherine and Alexander had planned for Amelia to commit incest without her knowledge. What happened next was chaos. Some guests started leaving immediately, shaking their heads and whispering among themselves. Others stayed, too shocked to move. A few of Amelia's cousins confronted Catherine directly, demanding to know how she could do such a thing. Alexander tried to leave, but Amelia's uncle blocked his path. Oh no, young man. You're going to explain yourself before you go anywhere. I don't owe any of you an explanation, Alexander said. You owe my niece an explanation, the uncle replied firmly. I stayed close to Amelia, who was standing in the middle of the chaos with surprising calm. The initial shock had worn off, and now she looked determined rather than devastated. Are you okay? I whispered to her. I'm better than okay, she said. I feel like I can finally breathe again. Something about this whole relationship never felt right, but I couldn't figure out what it was. The family resemblance, I realized. You probably sensed it subconsciously, she nodded. We have the same nose. The same chin. I thought it was just coincidence, but Catherine approached us one more time. Amelia, please. We can work this out. Don't throw away your future because of hurt feelings. My future? Amelia laughed bitterly. Mother, my future was never part of your plan. Only your greed was. Everything I did was for you. Everything you did was for yourself. You saw an opportunity to get rich, and you were willing to sacrifice your own daughter to make it happen. Catherine's mask finally slipped completely. You ungrateful little girl. I've given you everything, and this is how you repay me. You've given me lies, Amelia said. 28 years of lies. That's when the police arrived. Someone had called them when the situation got heated. They spoke with Amelia privately, then with Alexander and Catherine. While I couldn't hear everything they discussed, I saw Catherine and Alexander being led away for further questioning. Apparently, conspiracy to commit fraud was a serious crime, especially when it involved inheritance money and false marriage. Later that evening, after the church had been cleared and the police had finished their questions, Amelia and I sat in her apartment. She changed out of her wedding dress and into comfortable clothes. The dress now hung in her closet like a ghost of the day that might have been. "How are you feeling?" I asked her. "Honestly?" "Relieved," she said. "I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like I've been holding my breath for 6 months and can finally exhale." "It doesn't sound crazy at all. Your instincts were trying to warn you," she nodded. I kept telling myself I was just nervous about getting married. But deep down something felt wrong about everything. The quick engagement, the way Alexander seemed to know things about my family, the way my mother was so eager to plan everything. What happens now? "Now I start over," Amelia said with a sad smile. "I'll have to deal with the legal mess of my father's estate. I'll have to figure out what to do about my mother. And I'll have to learn how to trust people again." "You can trust me," I said firmly. "I know," she replied, squeezing my hand. "Thank you, Olivia. If you hadn't spoken up, I would have married him. I can't even imagine." She shuddered at the thought. "What made you finally decide to stop it?" I asked. "When I realized that my mother saw me as nothing more than a tool to get what she wanted, that hurt worse than Alexander's lies. A stranger lying to me for money is one thing. But my own mother?" We sat in comfortable silence for a while, processing everything that had happened. Over the next few weeks, more details came out about Catherine and Alexander's plan. It turned out that Alexander wasn't just Amelia's half-brother. He was also a con artist who had tried similar schemes before. Catherine had found him through a private investigator and offered to pay him to seduce Amelia. The inheritance was indeed worth millions, but it was legally complicated because of some debts Amelia's father had left behind. Catherine and Alexander had planned to use the marriage to consolidate everything under their control, then divorce Amelia and leave her with nothing while they split the money. Both were eventually charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted inheritance theft. Alexander also faced charges for identity fraud since he had been using fake documents to hide his relationship to Amelia's family. The legal process was long and difficult for Amelia, but she handled it with grace. She had a good lawyer who helped her sort through her father's estate properly. In the end, she inherited what was rightfully hers, minus the legal fees and some debts that had to be paid. More importantly, she started seeing a therapist to work through the betrayal by her mother and the complicated grief of learning new things about her father's life. "I'm not angry at my father," she told me one day.
He made a mistake, but he's been dead for over 10 years.
"I'm angry at my mother for using that mistake to try to destroy my life." Catherine tried to contact Amelia several times from jail, but Amelia refused to see her or take her calls. "I need time to process this," she explained. "Maybe someday I'll be ready to hear what she has to say, but not now." A year later, Amelia met someone new. His name was David, and he was a teacher at the elementary school where she volunteered on weekends. Their relationship developed slowly and naturally, built on honesty and mutual respect. "He's nothing like Alexander," she told me. "He's quiet and thoughtful. He doesn't try to sweep me off my feet with grand gestures. He just dars about me as a person." I was happy to see her trusting again, but I also noticed how carefully she approached the relationship. She asked lots of questions, verified details, and took her time getting to know him. The experience with Alexander had made her more cautious, but also wiser. Catherine was eventually released from jail after serving 8 months. She tried to contact Amelia again, but Amelia still wasn't ready. "Maybe someday," she said. "But she has to prove that she's genuinely sorry and not just trying to manipulate me again." Alexander disappeared after his release. Amelia heard through the legal system that he'd moved to another state. She hoped he wouldn't try to con anyone else, but knew that was probably wishful thinking. As for me, the experience changed how I approached my own relationships and friendships. I learned to trust my instincts more and speak up when something feels wrong, even if it might cause conflict. Looking back on that day at the cathedral, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I hadn't overheard that phone call. Would Amelia have gone through with the marriage? Would she have eventually figured out the truth? I'll never know, and I'm glad I don't have to. What I do know is that telling the truth, even when it's difficult and painful, is always the right choice. Silence in the face of wrongdoing makes us complicit. Love sometimes means being willing to hurt someone in the short term to protect them from much greater harm in the long term. Today, Amelia is engaged to David. This time, she's taking her time planning the wedding. She's asked me to be her maid of honor again, and I'm honored to stand by her side as she marries someone who truly loves and respects her. The difference between this engagement and the last one is like night and day. This time, everything feels right. There are no red flags, no nagging doubts, no secrets lurking in the shadows. This time, love is real. If you're reading this story, and something about it resonates with you, if you're in a situation where your instincts are telling you something is wrong, or if someone in your life is pressuring you to ignore red flags, please listen to that inner voice. Trust your gut, ask questions, demand honesty. And if you have a friend who seems to be in trouble, speak up. They might not thank you at first, but if you're right, they'll thank you for the rest of their lives. The truth isn't always easy, but it's always better than living a lie. Sometimes the greatest act of love is preventing someone from making the biggest mistake of their life. Even if they hate you for it at first, real love means being willing to be the villain in their story so they can be the hero in their own life.